I'm Katie Deneen.
And this is our project on homophobia. Okay, the goals and table of contents. We're going to learn about who and what makes up the LGBTQIA+ community, forms of homophobia in the world and its harm, solutions to making our world a more accepting and safe place, examples of how our generation is already making a positive impact in the community, connection to CST memes, and salutations. Okay, LGBTQIA plus 101, understanding the gay. So, starting off with what is sexual orientation? Sexual orientation is the emotional, romantic, or sexual attraction that a person feels towards another person. What is gender identity? Gender identity is the personal sense of one's own gender. What is LGBTQIA+? It's an acronym to display different sexual orientations and gender identities. Okay, labels are very important to the community because some people feel very free once they give themselves a label. They feel finally seen and accepted, while others don't want to be labeled to keep anonymity and just be more comfortable. Some labels are about sexual orientation, like lesbian or gay, how they feel romantically or sexually towards someone, and some have to do with gender identity, like transgender or agender, and that's how one person identifies with their own gender. So it's a spectrum and it's a scale, and at some point you should familiarize yourselves with all the terms so you can be more accepting of all people around you. Okay, so do people choose their sexual orientation? The answer is no. The answer is always no, and gender identity is no. And some people want medical experts or medical opinion, or scientists or really smart people to say it, and there are people like that saying it. And people's sexual orientation or gender identity is formed from biology, psychology, environment factors, and genes and hormones. So nothing that an individual controls, it just happens, they don't choose it, and is a natural part of who a person is.
And now we're going to transition from the general gay topic to homophobia, which obviously is being anti-gay. So we're going to talk about some causes, forms, and results of homophobia. So probably the primary cause of homophobia is ignorance, because a lot of people just don't understand what being gay is. They see gay people as a threat or as predatory, or they think that they chose this and it's unnatural. And obviously, if you learned more about the community and the people in it, you would understand that that wasn't true and you wouldn't be homophobic. There are religious causes against homophobia. Many major organized religions are against gay marriage and gay couples, which causes the people who belong to those religions to dislike all gay people. There is the fact that a lot of people look at the world and their lives as an us versus them situation, and so they hate gay people just because they're different than them. And also there can be a misogynistic cause of homophobia, where a lot of anti-lesbianism and anti-bisexual women is actually rooted in the desire to keep women down and to not allow them to have their own sexual liberation. And these are just some pictures. One of them is from both of them are from homophobic protests. This one says, "Don't confuse our children," which is obviously from the perspective of someone who doesn't understand what teaching children about gay people would do. Maybe they think that teaching children about gay people will make them gay, which is a common concern with parents, but obviously that isn't true. And this is from a religious protest. One of them says, "Jesus loves you, not your sin." So that just shows the religious aspect. And this is a quote from the Bible, from Galatians, which shows that a perspective of where in the broader lens, religion really isn't that against gay people, because it's really not against anyone. So this quote says, "There is no longer Jew or Greek, there is no longer slave or free, there is no longer male and female, for all of you are one in Christ Jesus." And there can be many forms of homophobia. One of them, probably the primary one that you see in your everyday life, is through homophobic jokes which obviously really aren't funny, but they can be a sort of subtle way to see homophobia in one's culture. People making jokes against gay people, against people who are transgender, and it just kind of shows that especially teenagers often don't take it as seriously as they should, and they make jokes to cover up the fact that they are very homophobic, and they play it off as, oh, it's just a joke, but really there's a more serious cause that should be remedied. There's a lot of homophobia in legislature where gay people aren't given the same access to health care, and that's another way that it can be difficult as a gay person to come out and to feel free in your own society. Media representation can be a form of homophobia if gay people aren't represented enough, so they don't feel seen on TV and movies and books, and they don't feel like they're really welcome as a part of the society. And of course, the most severe form of homophobia is hate crimes, which unfortunately have been on the rise in recent years. And then these are some pictures. There's a flag that says representation matters. And then this protest here is against a form of legislative homophobia where Florida is beginning their Don't Say Gay bill, which would want to avoid talking about gay people, which obviously is very damaging to them. So the results of homophobia, so continuing to push homophobia only promotes ignorance and what makes people want less to learn about other people and to become more knowledgeable and accepting. And many gay people will become afraid of their own identity. They probably won't want to come out, and they won't feel true and good about who they are, which is obviously very sad. And it will really just keep furthering the lack of understanding in the society, which will just cause a vicious cycle of homophobia and hatred for people who don't deserve it. And this is a poster of I am gay, 5 things I fear, which shows they're afraid to be openly gay, they're afraid to seek health care, they're afraid to buy sexual health products because they fear being mocked or discriminated against. And now we have some solutions for homophobia in our society. In your everyday life, though it might seem like it's kind of a broader issue, but in your everyday life, there are definitely ways that you can fight homophobia. For example, your choices in words. For example, respecting other people's pronouns, although sometimes it can seem a little tricky and it might take some getting used to. It's a very easy way to show someone that you accept them by simply referring to them in the pronouns they prefer. And also using inclusive language. Sometimes that means not using gendered words as often, and it just being able to include other people in the way you speak so that they know that you're accepting of them. And a part of that is making a safe space, so making sure that other people know that you're a person they can talk to and that you're not going to judge them for their choices or their sexual orientation or gender identity, so that they know that they can come to you and that you're a safe person for them. We should have, another solution is in media. Like I said before, representation is very important, so adding more gay representation in media would be very important to solving parts of homophobia. And also in media, sometimes even though gay people are represented, they're represented poorly and in ways that only further homophobia. For example, there's kind of a glorification of a struggling, mentally ill gay person, which is kind of a stereotype that can be seen throughout more modern media about gay people. And it just furthers the idea that gay people aren't happy, maybe don't deserve to be happy, and so there should be a lot of more happy gay stories. And there's also the problem of token characters and stereotype characters, which in the end probably do more harm than good, even though they are a form of representation. They don't really reflect true accepting and welcomeness in that media. And finally, education is a very important way to solve homophobia. So in schools themselves, we should teach inclusivity and also include people within schools. To combat ignorance, there should be education about different gender identities, about different sexual orientations, so that people aren't ignorant about them. And then also within the actual school systems, making sure there's no discrimination against gay people, and that teachers and administrators are able to treat all children equally and not discriminate.
Okay, representation. We've mentioned it a few times throughout this already, but it's really important because people are scared of the unknown. So if we put it more out in the world, it'll help normalize it, which will create a more comforting environment for people of the community. But also it can help people, particularly younger, but of course older, feel safe and feel accepted and feel like they're not alone, which are all very common feelings. And so these are just some examples of how the younger generation is taking steps forward and putting it out there. So in social media, is often used to advertise pride parades or petitions and stuff like that. And it's also a place where celebrities are active, and there's a lot of celebrities or influencers who are very open about their sexuality, and they answer questions and they help others find their way, and they make a community that's very safe. So those are two forms of representation. Other media's representation is found in books, movies, and TV shows, all forms of entertainment, and they're all different ways people can find a community, and they can find a fan base, but it's something that they can do in their free time, and they're not necessarily exclusively for the LGBTQIA+ community. So a straight person or ally can be watching a TV show and a gay couple is introduced, and it just slowly integrates it into that person's world, and it's just good form of representation.
And then we want to talk about how the themes of homophobia and how we should respond to them relates to Catholic social themes. So our first theme we wanted to talk about was rights and responsibilities. So obviously, as we talked about, a lot of times gay people lack basic human rights, and these rights should be guaranteed by their society according to Catholic social teaching. And people also have a responsibility as a Catholic, as a Christian, as just a person to uphold the rights of others, using their platforms, especially in the case of celebrities, using their platforms to empower gay people. This picture is a picture of Lin-Manuel Miranda doing his famous "Love is Love" speech after the Orlando shooting. So that's an example of a celebrity using their platform to continue to empower gay people and to speak about problems that matter. And then solidarity is also a Catholic social teaching theme that relates to homophobia. We obviously have to stand with people who are being discriminated against and treated poorly and being denied their rights as a person. So there's a clear problem with society turning a blind eye to these problems, and as a Christian you have to seek out these problems to be able to fix them and stand with our gay brothers and sisters who deserve to have their rights upheld. And this is a picture from a pride parade, which is a great example of solidarity and allyship within the community.
Hello, I'm Jenny Patella.
I'm Katie Deneen.
And this is our project on homophobia. Okay, so